turn? Or do I just push? Oh, lift it. Okay. Hare Krishna. Om Agyanatimirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalang Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tang Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacham Patitanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukhaṁ karote vācālaṁ pangum langhayate girim Yat kripatamahang vande Shri Guru Dinataranam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Sankarshan Dasadikari Namo Prabhupada Nuga Prema Murtikapad Gaur Desha Vikashvartatam Bhakti Varsham Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyadeштaya. So continuing our study of Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is. Chapter 13, Nature, the Enjoyer and Consciousness, starting from text 17. You can read the Sanskrit and translation together. Avibhaktang. Oh, should I begin? Are we ready? Okay, this is on page 620, chapter 13, text 17. Okay, we'll begin. Avibhaktam cha bhuteshu vibhaktam iva cha sthitam bhuta bhartri cha tajñeyam krasishnu prabhavishnu cha. Translation: although the Supersoul appears to be divided, he is never divided. He is situated as one. Although he is the maintainer of every living entity, it is to be understood that he devours and develops all. Text number 18. Jyotisham apitaj jyotis tamasaf paramuchyate jnanam gyayam jnanagamyam hridi sarvasya vishtitam. He is the source of light in all luminous objects. He is beyond the darkness of matter and is unmanifested. He is knowledge. He is the object of knowledge, and he is the goal of knowledge. He is situated in everyone's heart. Iti kshetram tata jnanam gyayam choktum samasataha madbhakta etad vigyaya madbhavayopapadyate. Thus the field of activities, the body, knowledge, and the knowable have been summarily described by me. Only my devotees can understand this thoroughly and thus attain to my nature. Text 20. Prakriting purushang chaiva vidyanadi ubhavapi vikarangscha gunangscha vidhi prakriti sambhavan. Material nature and the living entities should be understood to be beginningless. Their transformations and the modes of matter are products of material nature. 21. Karya karana kartritve hetu prakritiruchyate purusha sukha dukhanam bhoktritve hetur uchyate. Translation. Nature is said to be the cause of all material activities and effects, whereas the living entity is the cause of the various sufferings and enjoyments in this world. 22. Purusha prakriti stohi bhungte prakriti jangunan karanam gunosangosya sadasadyoni janmasu. The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus he meets with good and evil among various species. 23. Upadrashtanumanta cha bharta mokta maheshvara paramatneti chapyukto dehesmin purushav paraha. Yet in this body there is another, a transcendental enjoyer, who is the Lord, the Supreme Proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter, and who is known as the Super Soul. Text 24. Ya evang vetti purushang prakriting cha gunai saha sarvata vartamanopi nasa bhuyo bhijayate. One who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity, and the interaction of the modes of nature is sure to attain liberation. He will not take birth here again, regardless of his present position. Text 25. Dhyanenatmani pashyanti kechidatmanamatmana anye sankhena yogena karma yogena chapare. That super soul is perceived by some through meditation, by some through the cultivation of knowledge, and by others through working without fruit of desires. Well, Krishna now in text 26, he'll say yet another method. Text 26. Anye tvevang majananta shrutvanyebhya upasate tepi chati tarantyeva mrityung shruti parayana. Again, there are those who, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, begin to worship the Supreme Person upon hearing about him from others. Because of their tendency to hear from authorities, they also transcend the path of birth and death. Finally, text 27. Yavat sanjayate kinchit sattvang stavara jangamam kshetra kshetragya sangyogat tadvidhi bharatarshabha. O chief of the Bharatas, whatever you see in existence, both moving and unmoving, is only the combination of the field of activities and the knower of the field. Turning to text number 17. Avibhaktang chabhuteshu vibhaktam ivachastitam bhuta vartrichatajgyeyam grasishnu prabhavishnu cha. Although the super soul appears to be divided, he is never divided. He is situated as the one. Although he is the maintainer of every living entity, it is to be understood that he devours and develops all. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada's purport. The Lord is situated in everyone's heart as the super soul. Does that mean that he has become divided? No. Actually, he is one. The example is given of the sun. The sun at the meridian is situated in his place. But if one goes for 5,000 miles in all directions and asks, where is the sun? Everyone will say that it is shining on his head. In the Vedic literature, this example is given to show that although he is undivided, he is situated as if divided. It is also said in Vedic literature that one Vishnu is present everywhere by his omnipotence. Just, or maybe it's pronounced omnipotence, I don't know. Just as the sun appears in many places to many persons. And the Supreme Lord, although the maintainer of every living entity, devours everything at the time of annihilation. This was confirmed in the 11th chapter when the Lord said that he has come to devour all the warriors assembled at Kurukshetra. He also mentions that in the form of time, he devours also. He is the annihilator, the killer of all. When there is creation, he develops all from their original state. And at the time of annihilation, he devours them. The Vedic hymns confirm the fact that he is the origin of all living entities and the rest of all. After creation, everything rests in his omnipotence. And after the annihilation, everything again returns to rest in him. These are the confirmations of Vedic hymns. Yato va imani bhutani jayante yena jatani jivanti yat prayanti abhisang vishanti tad brahma tad vijigyasasva. Taittiriya Upanishad 3.1. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Although the Supersoul appears to be divided, he is never divided. He is situated as one. Although he is the maintainer of every living entity, it is to be understood that he devours and develops all. Avibhaktam jabhuteshu vibhaktam ivachastitam. So, avibhaktam jabhuteshu. In every living entity, avibhaktam, the Lord appears to be he appears to be vibhaktam. Vibhaktam means he's divided. Somehow he's become divided into different locations. Yeah? We don't have the experience in this world that one entity can be in many locations at the same time. Of course, we hear about the yogis, they can do this. They can divide themselves into 8 or 9 forms, I believe. Is that right? Okay, that's it then. So, but the thing is, in each of those forms, that he can only act in one way, and each of the forms has to speak and move, think in the same way. So it's just like copies. But the Supreme Lord, he's the same super soul in everyone's heart, in your heart, in my heart, right now as we speak. He's guiding us the way we think. He hears. Actually, desire in the Bhagavad Gita is compared to a fragrance. He can sense, just like we can sense what kind of neighborhood we're in. If there's a smell of rose garden, or if there's a smell of, marijuana or urine, we can understand what's going on in that neighborhood and what kind of modes are there. So the Lord very easily, by his transcendental senses, he can understand the desire of every living entity. He knows the heart. Therefore he is called Suhridam Sarvabhuteshu. Suhrid is a word for friend, but it also means very close to the heart. And the Lord is literally in the heart of the living entity. He is there dwelling, the indwelling super soul. So he never leaves us. He's guiding us. And it's interesting to know that, the purpose of yoga is actually to discover and dedicate oneself to the service of that super soul. Yoga avastita, dhyana avastita, tatgatena manasa, sa eva yoginam. The yogis, their goal is to still their consciousness so that there's no agitation, just like in the water. If the water is, say you're in a tub, a hot tub, jacuzzis are on, jets are on. It's so agitated. If you drop your key in the tub and you're looking in the water to try to spot the key, you won't find it. So you have to turn off the the jets, give some time, the water will become still, and then without any effort, you can just look down and see. So the whole thing about yoga, it's a process to bring the mind and senses into a still position, so that the one can identify his target, his goal easily. One can actually perceive the presence of the super soul, either directly or indirectly. You know, we one of the difficult things that modern researchers, science has, they cannot determine exactly is what is the cause of instinct. They explain it by as a, as a result of evolution, of chemical evolution, that we've developed instincts. There's a nice book called Nature's IQ. You can have a look at it if you haven't seen it. It shows how actually this theory of evolution is not sufficient to explain the type of instincts we see in nature. For example, there's a fish which has a rod coming out of its forehead. And at the end of that rod is a light. At the end of the pole, there's a light which attracts other fish. And that light is somehow chemically, it's illuminated. It's like a green glow. And other fish come near, attracted by that, and they become easy prey. So the idea of evolution is that, you know, there's a mutation. It's fueled by genetic mutations which apparently happen randomly. So when these mutations happen, there's some variation within a species, and if the change in the structure of the new offspring is advantageous, then they get a better chance of surviving, and then they can pass on that genetic information, and then it continues like that, and so gradually new features develop and build, and you know, so the difficult thing is how to explain how all of those intermediate steps are advantageous. Can you somehow show that before that growth from the forehead of this particular fish became so useful for its survival that the intermediate stages were also useful? Otherwise, he would have just been wiped out and it would have been lost. So it had to have been advantageous all the way until the thing extended and somehow the light happened. And he also, at the same time, would not just develop the physical structure, but the proper mentality, because most fish are always running, moving, swimming, active. But to actually have the type of disposition where he's just willing to sit there and wait, that also had to develop along with the structure. So the more you get into it, and people spend, years and years researching these things to try to explain how the variety appears within nature. So, you know, I forgot how I began on this. I digressed. Yeah, the super soul is directing. Yeah, inspiration and instinct. Thank you. So the instinct that we see in creatures, and inspiration, I can't say about animals and other creatures, but human beings certainly, we get inspiration. And the way, it's been documented. People great inspired thinkers and creators, like of course the great examples are Tesla, Mozart, and others, Newton. They've, there's common testimonies that, they were working really hard on a problem. And they were just trying day and night, putting their full focus and just grinding away. And then after a long time struggling and just working so hard, all of a sudden, one day or one night, it just pops into their mind. The whole program, the whole solution immediately appears, just like Mozart said. He didn't actually have to piece by piece construct his orchestrations, right? His pieces. They came into his mind, and he just had to grapple and try to put it down, to write it down before it escapes, you know. So it would just come like that, you know, just appear as just given as a result of their austerity. It just suddenly appears, and that's how many breakthroughs happen, you know. So how do you explain this kind of phenomenon, this inspiration? So Krishna is explaining here that he's in the heart of everyone. He's the source of light in all luminous objects. He's beyond the darkness of matter. He's unmanifested. He's directing the field of activities. You know, he's the seer, he's the overseer, he's the permitter. Without his permission, you know, we can't discover anything. Mata parata, what is it? The verse Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto. Then Mata jnanam apohanamsha smritam jnanam. He's giving the remembrance, knowledge, helping us to forget. You know. So by all of the Vedas, Krishna says, I am to be known. You know. So that means by all these attempts at gaining knowledge, you know, the goal is Krishna. If there's no goal, it's like you know, you enter into any field of knowledge. It's like going into the ocean. You know, you can discover so many things in the ocean: a shipwreck, some coral reef, gold. But if you don't know what you're looking for, you can get distracted. Yeah. So when you go in, Krishna says, you're entering now the Vedic world, the Vedic knowledge. But know that whatever you do, whatever you discover, it's leading to me. You know? Don't go just swimming here and there and discovering this and that. Know that the source and the goal of it is me. There was a verse we read just a minute ago. Yeah, what was that? It was really interesting Sanskrit. 18? Yeah, jnanam geyam jnanagamyam. Yeah, he is knowledge, he is the object of knowledge, and he's the goal of knowledge. He's situated in everyone's heart. So he seems to be divided, you know, but Prabhupada's giving different evidence from the Vedas that he's not. The classic example is the sun. Sun is in one place, but appears to be in many places. Yeah. You're standing out. You've had the experience of being outside in the sun, and you can feel like the sun is directly on you. So the sun is so powerful that it gives that experience to everyone for thousands of miles around. Everyone is feeling the sun is on me. The sun is on me. It's coming upon me. You know. So the Lord is in one form, but He's in everyone's heart. And we see that for advanced Vaishnavas, they don't feel that they need to make a lot of effort. One of the obstacles to bhakti is actually atyahara prayasascha. So prayasa means over endeavor. Yeah. At a certain point, you know, Krishna says, prakrite kriyamanani gunais karmani sarvasha. He says the material nature is actually enacting, just like puppets on a string. Everyone's moving according to the pulling of the modes of nature. But they're thinking I'm acting. They're thinking I'm doing things. But you can't do anything, Baba. Look inside. You know, if you think it's a great classic example, if the nervous system isn't working in your body, how can you move or think anything, you know? That's by a higher grace than your own, right? I don't know anything, actually. I didn't study biology or anatomy, but I don't know what's going on in here. But constantly, there's so many intricate, interrelated functions happening within the body, and there's a balance. There's so many systems. There's the nervous system. What other systems are there? The respiratory system. evacuation, what else? Blood circulation. So many things happen, and they're all in balance. And if it goes out of balance, then it's disease. I mean, it's so perfect. Who designed it? It's such an amazing machine. So delicately balanced, you know. When the mode of goodness is just coming to awareness of that. This Hare Krishna, Jai Shishi, Nitai Gaur. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So Krishna he's maintaining everything. Actually, this is the work of the demigods. Krishna, he's just the enjoyer. So he expands himself into Balaram, then Sankarshan, then the Chaturvyuha. Then again, what is it after that? Another Sankarshan. And then Chaturvyuha for the material universes. And then from the Mahavishnu's breathing comes the universe. He enters as Garbhodakashayi, then Kirodakashayi Vishnu. And from Kirodakashayi Vishnu, he expands himself as the super soul of all the living entities within that universe. So, you know, Krishna deputes all of these activities to his expanded forms. But Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. Ete Changsa Kala Pumsa. All of these forms are expanded parts of the original one source of everything, that is Krishna, the original personality of Godhead. So he's when the pure devotees, because the pure devotees are serving Bhagavan, Bhaktya Mama Vijananti, Yavanyaschasmi Tatvataha. Krishna says, I can be known through bhakti. When he says I can be known, it means I. Krishna can be known only through bhakti. He says, what is the other verse? Advaya Gyan. This knowledge, Bhagavat Tattva, it's non-dual knowledge. So as soon as one comes to understand Krishna, then he also knows about Brahman and Paramatma. It becomes revealed. So then the devotee, he doesn't make extraneous efforts. He doesn't have to work very hard because he realizes Krishna is the doer and I'm the instrument. So he can make me dance as he wishes. He can make me move. He can use me. Whatever kind of nature, ability, knowledge that I have, it's enough. I surrender. Let me engage it for Krishna and he'll supply. If I need anything more, he'll give that. If I need what I have now, he'll preserve that. You know, that the devotee has this faith, this surrender. Krishna is my maintainer. Goptritve varanang tata. He knows Krishna is maintaining me. Rakshishyatiti vishvasam. He has faith that, Krishna wants me to be killed or destroyed. That is his will. If he wants to protect me, he'll do that. Then, Haridas Thakur is an example of an exalted Vaishnava. He was living in a cave. This is narrated in the Chaitanya Bhagavat. And he was absorbed in transcendental ecstasy simply by uttering the names of the Lord day and night. And there were others who wanted to come associate with him, but they were afraid because they knew that there was a large poisonous snake living in that cave. And, Haridas Thakur, he didn't have any fear because of his connection with Super Soul, and he trusts that Krishna is in control. I'm simply trying to serve him. But these people are inconvenienced, and they're very sincerely desiring to hear about the glories of the Lord. So Krishna understood this sentiment of Haridas Thakur, and so the snake came, which is normally, vicious living entity. He came out from the cave, and it was observed that he left very peacefully when Haridas Thakur had this desire. The snake just, of his own accord, he left and didn't come back so that others could come and associate with him. And So Prabhupada once was asking, in an interview, he was being asked about how we get money, the Krishna consciousness movement, and Prabhupada, and how do you get money, Srila Prabhupada? Well, he said, Krishna provides. They said, okay, we know it's from Krishna, but how do you actually, like, how does it come to you? Well, Krishna's giving it. Okay, but you're doing the book distribution, you have some other, maybe some business going on, and he said, Prabhupada said, no, you should understand, Krishna is giving us the money. And then he made it very clear, he said, if Krishna, he's in your heart right now, and if he tells you, you hand this devotee $1,000, you must give it to me. He said, in this way, Krishna is giving us everything. So he recognized the super soul is active. Looks like it's divided, but he's one, and he has his plan. Now, it's also interesting if we look into Bhagavatam. I was reminded of some verses when I saw this. There's I can't remember. Does anyone know that verse about Krishna being not being? He says, "I'm not in Vaikuntha, and I'm not in the hearts of the yogis. I'm only where my devotees are chanting." Does anyone know that verse? There's another one in the 9th canto. Ahang bhakta paradhino hyasvan tantra iva dvija sadhubir grasta hridayo bhaktir bhakta jana priyaha. So this is Krishna speaking to Durvasa Muni. We know the story how he offended Ambarish Maharaj, trying to punish him for breaking the Ekadashi without first honoring him, Durvasa Muni, as a guest. So became very angry and threw down some of his hair on the ground, and it manifested a big demon who wanted to destroy Durvasa Muni. He wanted to destroy Ambarish Maharaj. This caused, Vishnu to send his Sudarshan chakra, and then Durvasa Muni was on the run. It's very interesting, sometimes someone asks a question, well, like when he killed Shishupal, it was just so instantaneous. Bam! Just his head came right off, cut his neck just in the way that the blood didn't go in the sacrificial, arena. And it was just like everything was just so perfect and quick. So why didn't he just do it like that with Durvasa Muni, right? Well, we also know another thing about Krishna, is that we say it every day. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmani Hitaya Cha Jagritaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namaha. That the Brahmanas are very dear to him. So Durvasa Muni, after all, was a Brahmana. So Krishna gave him the opportunity, to come all the way to Vaikuntha, even though he wasn't a devotee, he was a yogi. But he could get darshan with the Lord, and he couldn't find shelter from Shiva or Brahma. He was deferred, and he came to Vaikuntha. There, the Lord said, "Actually, I'm not able to protect you." He said, "I'm completely under the control of my devotees. Indeed, I'm not at all independent because my devotees are completely devoid of material desires. I sit only within the cores of their hearts. What to speak of my devotee, even those who are devotees of my devotee are very dear to me." So, the question comes up, why does the Lord say it like that? Why does he say, I'm only in the hearts I'm in the hearts of my devotee? Because we're reading here today that, the Lord is maintaining every living entity. He's in the heart of everyone. So why is there a distinction here? Krishna says, I'm in the heart of my devotee. So what does he mean? Literally? How do I understand it? I see. Yes, Prabhu. Mm, okay. Uh, yeah. So the Lord, yeah, they're aware of His presence. They're also very faithful. Yeah, I was thinking of Prahlad. One example to my mind came Prahlad. He, it's an interesting question. I don't know. Was he seeing the Lord face to face at every moment, perceiving Krishna's presence? Because he was tested externally. At least it looks like to me that he was tested. He was thrown from the cliff, thrown under the elephants. He was, thrown in the boiling oil. Was his fearlessness due to faith? Lord will protect me, or He'll kill me as He desires. Or was it due to his perceiving that this is, Krishna is here protecting? Like just like when he looked at the column, I think I heard a comment once that he didn't say on faith only that Nrsingadev is in that column. But when he was challenged, he looked and he saw the Lord there. And it's in the Bhagavatam, right? It's mentioned. Prabhupada's, I think in Prabhupada's purport it's there too. He says he actually saw Nrsingadev saying like, all right, I'm here, go ahead, you know. And he was like, yeah, he's right. He was with direct perception assuring Hiranyakashipu, yes, he's there. Hiranyakashipu couldn't see, but Prahlad could see. So, but anyway, we don't have to analyze that too deeply. In one way or the other, as the Prabhus mentioned, the Lord is manifest, and in the heart of the devotee, in the heart of the devotee. And that means that the devotee can make a very, one of the qualities of a devotee is he's sober, he's grave. So he can make decisions. Uh, uh, he always takes permission from the super soul or from the Lord before doing anything. Okay? He's not an independent actor. So in that way, he's always, it's like and we're doing sadhana. I speak for myself. I'm doing sadhana. So the sadhana means we're practicing how to feel dependent on Krishna. That's right, sum and substance of sadhana. Why do I follow the rules and regulations? Because I'm trying to learn how to feel always dependent on Krishna and to connect everything I do, say, speak, think with Krishna. Eat, look at, all of my senses, trying to use them in a way that's always connected with Krishna. And when one becomes well practiced, accomplished in the path of sadhana, then the Lord's presence, the Lord is assured that this person is sincere, he's serious, he wants to be my devotee. Let me reveal. Pareshanu bhavo viraktiranyatya chaishatrika ekakala prapadyamanasya yatashnata syus tushti pushti kshud apayo nugasam. So just like we are eating, we're three things are happening. You're becoming satisfied, your hunger's going away, you're gaining nourishment and strength. So when we perform devotional service, three things are happening. Our material desires are going down. We're actually getting some nourishment in the form of perceiving more and more how Krishna's hand is at work in our life. We're seeing Krishna's hand. And then what is that? And then satisfaction. Yeah. Then what is the third effect? I forget the comparisons. Nourishment, hunger is going, and strength. Yeah, one becomes spiritually strong that way. Yeah, becomes able to. The spiritual intelligence is awakened. So again, this verse is, although the super soul appears to be divided, he is never divided. He is situated as one. Although he's the maintainer of every living entity, it is to be understood that he devours and develops all. Any questions, comments, corrections, chastisements? I think we have 5 minutes. Yes, Prabhu.
So you're talking about the super soul being one and being spread, through everybody individually, but also being one. So my question is that, you were alluding to, we might not know the plan of the Lord who's working through the super soul, dictating the wanderings of all living entities.
Yeah.
So we might, as we're practicing sadhana bhakti, we might hit hurdles or hardships or fall downs and whatever they may be.
Yeah.
How can we understand that this is the Lord's plan, or is it just us like being offensive and causing this to happen, or are both those two facets like coinciding to work under the Lord's plan?
Ah, yeah, good question. So, yeah, once a person becomes a devotee, then he comes into the Lord's protection. The Lord is, it's said that if you make even a little advancement, neha bikramanashosti pratyavayo navidyate, that there's no loss. Swalpam apyasya dharmasya. So that Krishna, actually accepts a person, especially if a person takes shelter of a spiritual master. He's connected now very solidly to Krishna. Then Krishna is in charge now. And the reactions, even if a person goes away, then the reactions, things that happen to him, it appears to be dictated by karma, by the laws of nature, but actually Krishna's making a very custom plan how to rectify him and bring him back. And he's on Krishna's radar. He's got the attention of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, as far as mistakes we make, Krishna talks about that in the 9th chapter. He says, Apichet suduracharo bhajate mamananyabhak sadureva samyak vyavasito hisaha. Even if a person commits the most abominable activity, if he is rightly situated in his determination to continue in devotional service, he should still be considered saintly. Why is that, Why do you think that is? Krishna understands that this person may fall into old habits, bad tendencies because of conditioning, and he may leave the shelter of the Guru's instructions. But if he repents, then the Krishna immediately, through the Guru, Krishna he allows his shelter to be felt and he allows the devotee to return. Sometimes the devotee will go away and for a long time and then realize the misery of material life more firmly. Then when he comes back into devotional service, he has a humble attitude, and then he's able to continue. It might take him some time, but he picks up where he left off. But it does because of the, it can slow things down because he has some painful memories that he has to work through, But then Krishna's giving punishment. It's not a punishment. He's giving him, it's just like a parent punishing a child. It's not like, it's different from the punishment of the government, you know, or some kind of other authority. When a parent punishes a child, the parent has no hatred or anger. Yeah? He's punishing the child, but he's wishing that the best benefit for the child. He's wishing that the child will succeed. That's why he's doing that. So Krishna, so the devotee's attitude is Tatenu kampam susamikshamana bunjana evatme kritam vipakam hridvagva purbir vidadhan namaste chiveta yamukti pade sadayabak. His attitude is that whatever difficulties I'm facing, it's just a token of the things that I'm meant to give. And it's specifically meted out to me by Krishna just to help me give up whatever traces of the enjoying spirit are still in me. It's just like a parent punishing a child. And anyone who's able to think like that, he becomes a rightful inheritor of the kingdom of God, of his place in the Lord's pastimes. So, it depends on the devotee's attitude, how quickly he'll advance. It's all depending on the attitude of the practitioner, of the follower. And if we in devotional service we can adjust our attitude to accept whatever comes as the kindness and mercy of Krishna, then so many doors open up, so many opportunities for devotional service. And then in that way, nothing. My spiritual man, I haven't realized this, but I'll say it because my guru says it. That everything becomes a stepping stone at that point, even the greatest calamity. It's just it's not an obstacle, but rather it's an opportunity to step forward. Does that address what you were asking, more or less? Oh, I went over time. 1 minute. Forgive me. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai.